Hello, Ms.
Hi.
Colon. Okay, so today I'll be asking you questions for asylum.
Okay.
So my first question is, should mental health be more focused on in school? Why or why not?
So I think, part of why we have school counselors at school and social workers is because we recognize the importance of students having adequate services and making sure that they have the support that they need. So I think my job is an example of that, right? I think that young people have a lot to think about, have a lot to say, and sometimes they can get distracted. And school, while they know it's important, is not going to be a priority if things are not going well here and if things are not going well here. So I think absolutely right. And again, I think that schools have evolved in so many ways in terms of the services that we provide for young people.
So do you believe that there should be like a mental health focused class, maybe where students learn about mental health overall?
So yes and no, right? Because I go back to the fact that we have sex education, right? And a lot of young people will be like, man, I don't need that, I already know. And yet, teenage pregnancy still happens. Young people still get diseases, right? And infections, right? And we live in the United States. While we're not perfect, you all have access to a lot of free contraception. And yet, diseases and infections still happen and pregnancy happens. And so I think yes, but my worry is that a lot of young people won't take it seriously because they'll say, I already know this. I already know the importance of mental health. And again, in this country especially, we're talking about it more and more often that the access to resources are there. I mean, you could just type in, taking care of your mental health. You could probably get so many sites about things you could do. You could meditate, eating well, exercise, spending time with friends, getting off your devices, right? Young people know that being on social media and being on their phones is not good for their mental health. And yet, every time I walk around these hallways, people are on their phones. So that's why it's hard to say a definitive yes when I think, again, I'm speaking for this country where I feel as if a lot of young people certainly know.
As a society, what do you think should be done to support the mentally ill?
Oh boy, I have a lot to say about that, right? I think about, especially living in New York City, I think about a lot of our homeless population. And I think that there's definitely a contingent of people that are struggling with substance abuse. There's definitely a contingent of people that are struggling with mental illness. And we don't do a disservice. We do a disservice to them, right? I often think about if I had my way, honestly, if the mayor would listen to me or the governor, all these big high rises that they're building is unnecessary because that's for the really rich people. And I would build small apartment buildings that can hold 30 units and I would have it isolated, right? So it'd be all men or all women or families, right? Because the needs are very different. And you live there, you actually get an apartment, not a room. You actually get an apartment, and in the bottom level, there's medical professionals, mental health services, access to medications, access to job training, access to interview skills. And the idea is you live there so that you can take care of these needs, and then eventually they help you get a more long-term apartment. And then you're helping 30 people at a time. And there's several case managers. And just imagine if we built those throughout all 5 boroughs, look at where the needs are. If you're looking at the homeless population or if you're looking at issues that are coming. But again, that costs money, right? They'd much rather build a really high, expensive high rise that people are paying a cool, $2 million for some penthouse, but you don't want to take care of people that need it, right? So that would be a huge, and individuals would get jobs, they'd get back on their feet. And when people get jobs and get back on their feet, they go shopping more and they spend more money. So it's good for our economy, and it's just good as crime rates would go down. What? You know what I mean? And again, unfortunately that's not a priority, right? It's just shuffle them off somewhere else. Oh, they're on the trains. Okay, well, what are we gonna do about it? Right? You send in NYPD, but if they're not equipped to work with people that are struggling, that are mentally ill, now you're putting the person in danger, and you're potentially putting the officer